Hello, humans. Happy Thursday, I think it is. I'm just going to wait a little while for everyone to join and jump in here and let Instagram catch up with the fact that I'm live. It takes a little while. Hey, David. Hey, Michael. Hi, Adept. Thank you for coming in and jumping in. Oh, everyone's here. Right. Thank you, everyone. How are we feeling with lockdown? Let me know where you are and how you're going this week. For those who aren't in Perth, hi, Michael, might not know that for us here locally is like a 5 kilometer exercise, 1 hour limit radius for us. So it's a pretty tight lockdown here. So how are we all feeling about that? How are we going with that? Yeah, it's certainly not easy, I'm sure, for people who have kids at home as well. But that's yes. Oh, hey, from Brisbane. Yeah, Brisbane, you guys are in lockdown too. It's just huge right now, and that's not what I'm here to talk about, just so we're clear. And I totally understand it would be hard with your circumstances and anyone who have kids and chaos happening. But what I actually wanted to jump on, and Karatha, sorry, got distracted. Yeah, you are very lucky to be up there, Odette. Thank you. And hopefully it's warm for you here. It's pretty cool. But what I wanted to jump on and talk about today was actually what I do. Because most of you are aware that I ride a bike a lot and I race, and I'm a physio of 15 years. But what I actually do to help people with relationships or life or what's going on with self-awareness and things, like, you're all aware I do that, but you're not really, there's a gap. Yeah, there's a gap as to what I actually am trained to do. And that's something that is too much to put into a post. I'm not gonna write a 5-page post. I do write too much, I do talk too much, but I really wanted to share what it is that I do, because I'm not just an accountability coach. And yes, Benny, I do have wine and I definitely have cake and I do all the fun things. So I'm definitely one of those people who plays across all of the scopes of life and lifing, and has of course had all the experiences of all those things as well. So while I might come across as a shiny bubble of light sometimes, I definitely still have been through a lot, and I'm going to talk about some of that today without making it too heavy. So what I actually do, I do talk about concepts in my posts, but I don't always talk about the how, because the techniques and the methods absolutely vary on person to person. So depending on an individual circumstance, an individual upbringing, an individual age group, demographic, timing in life, what tools I use in my enormous toolbox is very varied, which is why I get tongue-tied trying to explain what I do. So I'm going to try not to talk too much, which is difficult. Those who work with me know that I talk a lot, but it's all honest talking too. So I have a list here so I can try and stay on track. However, what I have trained as or with is as a human potential practitioner through the School of Growth, which is now this year, I believe, called Whole Certification. Now, the reason I chose that course and that work is because it's enormous. The topics we cover, the areas and the tools that we are given in that training are huge, and they are far, far more than accountability coaching or being just your cheerleader or helping you with surface level relationships. Okay, I can definitely do all of that and I can definitely help you with that, but the training was a really deep level of self-awareness, energetics. I'm going to go into this in more detail, but yes, many things, and it was a huge amount of work. So it's very much through my own personal experience and my own traumas or wounds or things Yes, like dating advice, because while everyone else has been married for 10 years or 15 years or 25 years that I work with, I've been dating all of those years. So I've definitely done the legwork for you. And I dated before the introduction of apps like Bumble and Tinder, for which, by the way, I'm banned from Tinder. So you can go and Google how you get banned from Tinder if you want to have a laugh. And I promise I wasn't posting the nudes. So I did eventually meet my partner on Bumble. But yeah, I've done the real life dating before phones, before all of that stuff. And now also know how to navigate all of this online world, because it's definitely different when you go out now to meet people. It's a very, very different interaction. So how we associate and relate to people and how well we know ourselves is imperative, because there's so much superficial connection going on out there, and people showing up as a version of what they want you to see, as well as perhaps we're seeing a version of someone of what they want to show us. Nearly got tongue-tied. So we're seeing what we want to see in a person sometimes as well through beautiful rose-colored glasses. So being very much self-aware is so important now, thanks to technology. So without going into enormous detail as to what I went through, because those who have followed my journey or who know, like I know a few people even watching here, are fully aware of what my life has been like in the last 5, 6, and 7 years, having gone from Sydney to Perth and being without family and immediate friends. But it's through repetitive relationship patterns and heartbreak and failure and frustration and losing what I thought was the love of my life and the paper picture perfect man that ripped the rug out from underneath me, like big time, emotionally, financially, through my heart, through my connections. This was it to me. And the same pattern showed up again, but in such a way that I had to look at it. I had to look at myself, because I was so done with it. Now, I go into a lot of detail with this in a podcast. If you want to listen to the whole thing and the whole shebang, I'm getting hot here, I can send you the link, or the link to watch that podcast and that interview where I was interviewed as to why I came to do this work. It's in my bio if you want to look at it. It's quite lengthy and it's very detailed as to this whole situation and how it unpacked and unfolded for me. However, going through all of that myself was what actually made me turn around and go, you know what? Other people need this. Like I'm a physio. It is my job to fix people, right? I've been a physio for a long, long time, to the point where I see limitations in our work now. But I wanted to be able to give people this same medicine, if you will, to actually break through patterns and repeat and trauma and heartache and even just minor things. If you are in a relationship and the same minor things are ongoing and that you're not really looking at them and you're dancing around them, this is where we can self-reflect and take the tools to actually change that relationship. Because remember, in any circumstance, the only thing you have control over, or person you have control over, is yourself. You cannot control your partner. You cannot control the person you're dating. You cannot control your friends. All you can control is yourself. But in actually looking at yourself and looking at your way and how you're being and how your shit and your luggage and your history and stories and codes and back shit, really, all of your shit packed in a little backpack as luggage, how that's actually creating what is happening in your relationship. Don't dance around it, look at it. This is the stuff I do, okay? This is why I can't write it in a post. And Odette, no problems at all. For those who don't know, Odette is an amazing human in Perth who does a lot of this kind of work, but on an energetic level. So a really, really deep spiritual connectivity level, and she's in Perth and she does a lot of couples work. So check her out if you want more help on that sort of level thing. But let me get on track again. If you want the podcast details, please send me a DM afterwards. I can see someone's asked for it, but I might forget afterwards. So please send me a DM. It's a really, really cool unpacking of my history, which I don't need to go through here and now. But what it led me to do is want to actually help people in those circumstances where they're on repeat patterns, they've got shit going on, and half the time we just don't look at it. We're like, that's the way it is. That's how it is. That's how they are. So blaming or shaming. And really, it can change. And that might sound very light as I'm saying it, but that is the reality here. I work right now with men who are in relationship and who want to change the relationship with their partners and their relationship with their children. And they're like, I know that I need to do this for myself if I'm going to help my children. I know that I can't control my partner, but I can control myself. And if I can make myself a better person, then I can actually help them. So that's where I step in and look at their individual circumstance and their individual situation. So the level of work that people do with me on that journey or that time together actually includes, if you wish, depends where you want to go, right? That self-awareness, that deep dive, that deeper connection to perhaps your soul's calling or your soul's shit and your backlog, so that we can actually look at your family history, look at the family experiences, or perhaps if there was a trauma there that's written into your system that is continuing to repeat itself in an effort to keep you safe and keep you in belonging. So I spoke to this last week in one of my Instagram stories. What this means is that our systems as humans want to keep us safe and keep us in belonging, and it will take actions, make decisions, and also perspective sometimes so that it keeps us safe or small or what our system thinks is going to be secure and in our collective clan or family system. Now, I'm going to do a whole live about this separately, so I'm not going to dive into that now. You'll have to look at that another time. But to keep on track, having done that work myself, I did the training. And in a nutshell, this training includes lots of things. So while one of the biggest draw cards was that we did NLP work, which is neuro-linguistic programming, we did cover that. I find I don't use very much of that with clients. It comes up occasionally, but NLP is actually looking at the neural systems of the mind and how our coding and our wiring and our firing come out on a conscious and subconscious level. So it very much accesses like images and snapshots and words and programs is the best word. It looks at our body, which it is, as a system and an entity, and that neural pathway and connection. And like you would a computer, it helps to rewire and refire what is going on through your neural system and linguistics or words, pictures, patterns, imagery, depending on how you're programmed. So NLP and that type of work in the quantum field is very similar to Joe Dispenza's work. So if you want to look at what NLP is or what the neural programming work is, then please look up Joe Dispenza. He was a cyclist, he was a triathlete, he got hit by a car and was told he'd never walk again. He's now a doctor who was a doctor in this field. He was a chiro before that. So he's definitely one of the people I look up to in the work that I do and can relate with, because what he does is what I'm trained to do. Okay, now the other parts, so I brought it down to 4 things. So I've got NLP there. I also do inner child healing, or inner child healing is the best word. So our programming as adults usually occurs in our systems and in our bodies, and that nervous system I was talking about, between the ages of 0 to 6 it was, but now they've stretched it to 7 recently through science. Now, during those years, our childhood impression of circumstances, experiences, and all that sort of stuff actually gets programmed and stored and held in our bodies as this is how it is. When we do inner child healing, we're going to that child. We're looking at why, as a 3-year-old, they might have coded a trauma. To us as adults, it's not a trauma. To a 3-year-old, it's the end of the world, okay? If you need mum and dad to feed you still when you're 3, for example, and you don't get fed, you're going to see that as the end of the world. So we might, for example, code, if I don't eat often, I will die. Because a 3-year-old has made that decision and that impression, and it gets coded in our system. So we might, as adults, eat often. So we can go and look to why that happened and unpack that. And that is where we do the inner child healing and give the child the resource. Look at what was going on. Organize that experience that we had, that we carry and continue to do as adults. In a nutshell, that is what inner child healing does. This is what I do. Now, I also have various trainings in somatics and energetic work, and I love that. I'll answer that question in a moment. I love the somatics and energetics because I saw it as a physio for so long. Like when people come in and their back's flared up and they haven't done anything different, but then when they are lying down and I'm working on the back and working on their glutes and their hips, they start talking about what's going on in life, and it wasn't actually anything mechanical that caused it. It was actually like a trigger or their partner doing something or something happening at work, like a stress reaction, and that has triggered the lower back pain. Now, there's plenty of literature and books about this, about how different emotional experiences come out in our bodies. And I have seen it. Like, I have had it in my body. I've had times where I've gone through an experience. I'm like, oh, why is my knee sore? That's weird. I'm not even training hard. And speaking of training hard, one of the questions that I was asked in the lead up to this live was, what is my FTP? So we're going to digress for a second because that was asked in the lead up to this live, and I hope that he's watching. I was asked by Luke, who's in South Africa, I believe, and works like the Cape to Cape and Cape Epic and all of those big events. He asked what my FTP was. Now, right now, Luke, I sit very comfortably in my FTP of, I think it's 245, and I'm finding it really easy. So I feel like I possibly need to do a retest of my FTP, and based on how easy I'm finding it right now, I actually feel like my FTP would probably be over 250. So it needs to be retested, and I will let you know, but that is where I'm sitting at the moment, which is very different to a ramp test. So people watching this who aren't cyclists have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, but when I've raced for like 22 years of my life, I'm still very much a huge cyclist who's down for the evidence at heart. So that is what I think my FTP is. And if you really want me to do an FTP test, maybe I should suffer on the cross live, or whatever that might be. But I answered the question. Now we digress and get back on track. So we have NLP, inner child healing, somatics, and energetic work. So that's looking at your energetic system and your body system and how those two work together. That's a whole live on its own. The last but not least is all the relationship dynamics. So when I say relationship dynamics, that's because it's huge. It's huge. We're looking at like attachment styles. We're looking at energy work, as in masculine, driven, focused, attentive, structured. They're all masculine styled energies versus nurturing, gentle, fluid, all over the shop, chaos, which is feminine style energies. So when we learn to alchemize both of those in relationship and dance in and out of each of them, because we all have both of those styles within us, that is when we can start to relate differently to others and within ourselves. It's super interesting, if I'm honest with you. So I've actually played a lot with my feminine this year, because traditionally I've been very much a woman in her masculine. structured, driven, focused, can suffer, not that that's a masculine trait, like determined, supportive, like all of those things are masculine. I'm definitely under that umbrella. So I feel like a lot of the work that we can do as individuals is to look at our way of being, which I'm going to get to soon, versus like how we want a situation or a circumstance to actually be. When you talk to someone at work, when you associate with your friends, when you date someone, when you attract a partner, all these things come down to how you are being. And that's why all of the work comes back to ourselves and how we in ourselves are being. And we can be whatever the hell we want to be. You get to choose in every moment if you're going to choose to do the same thing and be the same person or take a different route. So that relationship dynamics and relating dynamics also stems into, how would I explain it? The masculine and feminine is polarity. However, if we look at our dynamics, we also look at how we speak to each other, how, like what tone of voice, what our body language is like. If we're actually creating a safe environment for our partners to meet us where we're at and have authentic and truthful conversations. So all of this together is definitely your relationship and relating dynamics. So as I said, that's a big, broad bucket, and it will depend on if you're going through divorce. If you divorced 6 years ago and you're still recovering in your heart, or if you're dating people and the same thing's happening over and over again, there's something that you might be doing that's coming up against what you want. And I did post about this recently. I was definitely showing up in the world doing things because I wanted the relationship so much that I was doing things that were actually pushing the man away because I wanted it so much. Like, it's sometimes when we really want something to happen and really want that thing to occur, we end up being and doing things that we think are right and we think might help, but depending on our coding and our programming, that's going to be received very differently to the person we're trying to create an outcome with. And also it will be very different depending on what their coding and programming and norm is. I know with my partner and I do a lot of things very differently to him. And it takes my noticing and my speaking the difference and almost like coming into the relationship or the moment and the conversation from a very different perspective. Like seeing it from, well, I'm doing it this way and you're doing it that way. And I can see that we are actually not meeting here. And then when you notice it has the opportunity to change, which is again another post I think I did in the last week. If you want to go back and look at it, there's so much power in the noticing, so much. And once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. So at the end of the day, and what is most important here, which I started to speak to, is that it's not what I do for you, it's how I be. I'm here to provide a safe space or container, if you will, for you to actually come to look at your truths and your shit. Because let's be honest, we all have luggage. We all have backstories. We all have traumas, big and small. We all have our shit. And I'm here to literally be a stand for what is your highest and best outcome on what it is that you want. And actually help, just hold the light, hold the space, hold the support for you to look at your shit, work through it, and become better or become aligned with the direction that you want to start to dive into. That is what I be. Now there's an excellent, I think it's an Instagram live or a reel or something. I think it's a live. It's very, very short. That's going around just today and maybe yesterday. And that was in pertain to the fact that as a good coach, mentor, guide, whatever you want to call it, helper, it is not your job to solve the person's problems. That is not your job, because in the short term, yay, it ticks the box, it gets the outcome. What is our job as coaches, mentors, guides is to actually show you how you can do it yourself, help you navigate your world, in your system and your body and your energy and your way of being so that you can learn to do it yourself. Because in the long run, that is what is of your highest service. When you learn yourself well enough to be able to work through stuff yourself. I don't ever want to create a codependent relationship with a client. Just as a physio, I was terrible with getting people to come in like twice a week, 3 times a week. I'm like, no, if you do this, you don't need me. You do this and you'll be fine. It's like, I'll teach you how to do it so you can do it yourself. I don't want you reliant on me. And that's where I hold the space, hold your hand, if you will, cheer you on to actually evolve or grow or look at your shit, look at your luggage and actually work out what to do with it. How do we fix it is probably the wrong words, definitely the wrong words. How do we reshape it? How do we reassociate with it? How do we remold it so it starts to create the shapes and the directions of how we want our relationship to be, of how we want our job to be, of how we want our life to be? We have that opportunity every single day. Do we take it? Not usually. That's the coaching I do. It's like, here's tools. This is how you can start to do this yourself, because in the long run, this is what's going to get you your outcome and this is what's going to be sustainable. This is going to be the foundation and the platform and the words I love to use. Because it all does come down to that. It all does come down to creating the foundation and platform within yourself, within your human, within your mind, within your body. You can't go and run a marathon without doing the strength training and the conditioning. You will run and get injured at 10Ks. Easy. You need strategy, you need form, you need strength, and you need to consistently flex those muscles that support you to get to that destination. This is the coaching I do. And very often people get changes very quickly because we go straight to the root of what's going on. We don't dance around the edges and make just affirmations about it. Sure, I love affirmations. They can help rewire your brain and your body responses. Absolutely, I love them. But you need to look at what the stories and the codings and the belief systems are that are on and on and on and going on. And that's the bit where you get to do the work, not me. I don't solve it for you. I hold your hand and guide you there. So, yeah, I can do things to help. Like I said, it's not what I do, it's how I be. And it also means I often call bullshit very lovingly on things that are like rubbish. I'm like, with absolute love, I'm going to say to you, you are more than this and you know more than this. I need you to see this differently because you need to see that is holding you back. And we reframe it and relook at it and come at it from a different angle. And then it's like, well, shit. I see what you see now, girl. Damn, that's not what we want, girl. This is what we do. So if you have any questions about this, please pop them in the comments, or if you're watching this on replay, please hit me up with a replay so I can work out who's listening to this when. I'm also streaming this live to, hello team, I'm bright red in your pictures. I overheat when I talk. The group that I have on Facebook, if you are listening to this on the Instagram, which these guys are listening to here, I have a Facebook group which is totally free called Awaken, Love and Life. And I do coaching stuff there, all those things there for free. There's a lot of relationship support. It's an open forum to ask any questions. There's lives, so if someone comes through, especially people who have worked with me before and they're on their own now 100% running smooth, they might just have a random question or circumstance pop up. You just pop it in that closed group and we sort through it and work through it because it helps others. So if you want to join that group for free, again, DM me please, because I'm more than happy to have you on board if it's going to help you. Yeah, join me, get more of a feel for what I do and who I am there. Yeah, let me keep on track for you here, and I'm noticing the time. I don't want to absorb too much time. I feel feel like I've covered everything that I actually popped down. Does anyone have any coaching or questions around things? No, I've covered all my things. So thank you if you've got this far through for listening to me talk about what it is I actually do or how I help you. That's what I wanted to share here, because it can't be spoken in a post, and it's something really that you only encounter once you start doing the work. Now, when I say doing the work, it's not all work, not always. It's more realizing, reviewing, and looking at where perhaps you want things to be as opposed to where they are, and then closing the gap. That's what we do together. So I do have places for one-on-one coaching, which is obviously the best if you actually want to get to your unique barriers, like I call them, or blocks or beliefs is usually the biggest one that just demolishes, to be honest, that being the one-on-one coaching. I do have the program Attract the One, which is a concise 9-step program for people who want to actually call in their match. Like, tired of dating, tired of going through what I went through for you for 25 years. I'm not that old, am I? But that is designed for people to really call in their equivalent energetically, mindset, activities, create that lifestyle together, call in that person, just stop swinging in the dark at bars, stop flicking through the apps, the Tinder and the Bumble. That is for that group. And all it really comes down to as well is a lot of work around self-awareness, self-exploration, self-alignment, self-awakening, as in looking at your shit. And that's how your partner lands. And I believe the current statistic is that 80% of the people that have gone through Attract the One actually met their partner while we were working together, and they are all still with their partners. I have not had any breakups, which is great. Not that I take any responsibility for that. That is with the gods or the world or your being in relationship, but I'm really proud of that, and I'm really proud of all of my clients who were shocked and stoked and excited to meet these people, because quite often they were very different to what they were dating and who they thought they'd be with, but they were a completely different level of happiness. And that's kind of what I experienced. I met my now partner and I was like, wow, he's so different to what I'd usually see. I'm not sure, but like it feels right and it feels good, and it is all the things that I had been really clear that I was a solid yes for. He is definitely all those things, like no one else has been. So I'm staying here because it's all of my yeses. And that's certainly what Attract the One is around. Literally what I did to go through that process and weed out the weeds and upturn the rocks and demolish all the shit to clear space for the right relationship to come in and for it to stay. So that's Attract the One. However, I do have very soon, drum roll, Manifest Your Match will be an online mini course. So that's definitely the most accessible financially, the most accessible with regards to time obligations, because you can work through it at your own rate, at your own speed, in your own time, and you have access to all of the tools, strategies, techniques, and things that we unpack together as a recording and in written theory and in little tools, so that you can do all those things on your own. Now, I'm still doing the back end part of all of that, so that will launch formally in probably mid-July, because I'm very much a perfectionist who wants to make it look pretty and get it right, so you have the best experience. But that's definitely the most affordable and accessible option to start to upturn some of the luggage and the shit, as we've just spoke about. So if you have any questions about Attract the One or just doing one-on-one coaching for yourself with your partner, please send me a DM. I would love to hear from you. And otherwise, I hope that this really answered a lot of the questions about what it is that I do. I'm not just another relationship coach. What I do is quite an energetic body system because of my physio piece, beliefs, stories, and those powerful tools in relating. It's all of that. So if you have any questions or queries, again, please send me a DM. And if you wanted the links to those things, again, DM me because I will forget. Otherwise, have an awesome night, and I will be jumping on soon to talk about creating that safety in yourself, in your relationships, in your body, because your safety is your superpower. Absolutely. All right, guys, have a great night. Take care with what's going on in the world, and I will chat with you soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye.